In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
What is the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, coming to you on a Tuesday night, 9 p.m. live, C3 Panthers Podcast, and it is a crazy show that we got for you tonight. Luke Kuechly, breaking, announces his retirement as the Panthers also acquire Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. And we've got a ton to talk about. And I've got to say, I was really excited and pumped up to be on the show. And right now I'm trying to internalize these feelings. And I've got Cody Lashney here to help me do it tonight.
Tony, what's up, brother? Man, starting from yesterday to a few hours ago to just now, man, my past few days have been so bipolar when it comes to football. I've experienced literally every up and every down. It's been such a whirlwind ride, man. But I mean, listen, every time there's big news in Panther Nation, it always happens on a Tuesday night, Tony Dunn. I swear, I don't know what it is, but there's some real juju going on that's going in favor of the best Panthers podcast that there is. And as always, we have the most lit Carolina Panther fan base in the YouTube chat that there is. Josh from Mask, Christina Aguirre, Rio Dub, Tin Tizzy, Underground West, Michael Jones, Trail One, Tony Dunn. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. We got so much to talk about. Let's roll.
We want you to be part of the show by calling into the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. You can leave a message up to 3 minutes, but if you keep them quick, we can roll through the calls as fast as we can and try to limit your messages if possible. But we do want to hear your input on this news that just broke. Luke Kuechly retires and what it means for this organization going forward as well in the past. We've also got CK in the house. CK, man, I would ask you to unmute your mic. There you go. And second is to use that buttery voice to cheer us up.
I don't know if I can do it tonight, man. It's there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, there's a lot of unknown, but we're gonna get through it tonight, guys. It's a therapy session, but it's also a bit of a celebration, reaction. It's gonna be an interesting show, to say the least. I'm not sure many are gonna top this.
You're on the couch, Panther Nation. There's 100 people tuned in to react to this. Why don't you go ahead and smash the thumbs up button and get this show popping, man. We're trying to grow Panther Nation. We support all the other Panther creators out there. And what we just want you guys to think about is this is us hanging out on the way to the stadium, to the game, chopping it up and just talking what we feels about this team. And we've also got the Stat Daddy in the house. How you doing, my friend?
I wanted to say that I was doing great, but about 15 minutes ago, CK dropped this anvil on me. If I cry a little bit tonight, don't judge me. It's a crazy.
Nah, man, this is a safe space. About, man. Safe space right now.
I put my Kuechly jersey on out of respect, and I got my autographs, my Kuechly autograph card, rookie card. So it's gonna sit next to me tonight, and then I'm gonna hang the jersey up on the wall after the show tonight.
And listen, it really is worth saying. Like, I mean, tonight's show, all of the big news in tonight's show literally broke within the last 2 hours.
Yeah.
Before we decided to go live. I mean, first we've had this incredible ups and downs. I mean, everybody who knows the podcast knows I'm a Clemson fan. So the LSU Tigers, they had the best season of all time last night. LSU paddled Clemson, and they're riding high, and then I'm all depressed about it. And then the next day, the guy that orchestrated the beatdown of my Clemson Tigers is now the offensive coordinator for my professional football team, the team I love, the Carolina Panthers. And now this about Luke Kuechly, man. I mean, this news is just out of nowhere, a left and right haymaker. Man, I mean, I don't know how we want to start this, but I mean, if Luke felt that his health was in any way going to be compromised and that he wasn't going to be able to continue to do the things that we needed him to do. I mean, for his own health, this is the best thing. I mean, obviously, I want to see the man play. I love him. He's my favorite defensive player of all time. But we're talking about a guy who's had so many different concussions. He wears this necklace thing that swells the brain so that way it doesn't move, allowing concussions not to happen so frequent. I mean, this has been a problem for Luke. And, he's 1 year younger than I am. I could not imagine, what emotions are going through his head right now, having to walk away from the sport after playing it for so long and just knowing that, now has to be your time.
Yeah.
Guys, we're about to open the show up by listening to the Luke Kuechly announcement and reacting essentially live because I know some of us have, basically we've refrained from listening to it just because we were starting the show up and we are going to announce, just kind of react and feel that raw emotion there. But before we do that, we got to I got a little plug here. Whether you're an athlete, a weekend warrior, or someone who deals with constant joint pain, back pain, muscle soreness, or arthritis, finding a natural remedy that instantly works might seem non-existent. Most over-the-counter pain relievers such as Icy Hot and Bengay only focus on the basic cooling effect, which temporarily takes your mind off the pain until the pain returns an hour or so. So here's the solution. If you're looking to get rid of that nagging muscle and joint pain immediately while providing long-lasting recovery, you need to try the natural breakthrough pain relief solution, CryoFreeze CBD, developed by Omax Health. This is non-prescription, triple action, pain relief, roll-on, specially formulated to block pain receptors, reduce inflammation, and improve muscle and joint flexibility. It's magical in many ways. Omax Health is offering my listeners 20% off the full bottle of CryoFreeze Pain Relief Roll-On plus free shipping. Be sure to use the promo code OVERTIME so you can get that discount. Don't let muscle soreness continue to be an excuse for not living an active lifestyle. Holy cow. Holy moly. Jeez. That better be some serious mess right there. You got to read all that. But, all right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this. Is that right now the real news is this. Thanks, God of Blackness, for supporting the show with the super chat. He said, told everyone we should have traded Luke. I don't know, but here we go. Let's check out what this Luke Kuechly interview sounds like, or this announcement. Here we go.
I need to play this game since I was in 4th grade, and I've been with the Panthers now for 8 years, and it's never the right time to step away, but now is the right time for me. And it's a tough decision. I've thought about it a lot, and I think now is the right chance for me to move on. And it makes me sad because I love playing this game. I've played it since I was a little kid, and it's my favorite thing in the world to do. And the memories I have from this place and this organization and playing on the field with these guys, they'll never go away. And sitting right now in the linebacker room, and the amount of memories I've had from this room alone could fill a book. And these are the best times of playing. Obviously on the field is awesome, but some of the best times of playing this game are behind the scenes in the locker rooms, in these meeting rooms, on the buses, traveling the games. You can't replicate that anywhere else, and that's why this is so hard to do, to move on in a different direction. But in my heart, I know it's the right thing to do, and it's hard, but that's why you play this game, to form relationships, and if you form strong relationships, they never go away. It's hard, but I hope to, still be involved in some way, and the biggest thing at this point now is to thank the people that have helped me get me there, from the coaches and the players to Coach Rivera to Marty, to Mr. Richardson for bringing me in, and now Mr. Tepper now. This decision has nothing to do with new coaches and Coach Rule. He's going to do a fantastic job. His track record's proven, but for me now is the right opportunity to move in a different direction. And there's only one way to play this game since I was a little kid is to play fast and play physical and play strong. And at this point, I don't know if I'm able to do that anymore. And that's the part that is the most difficult.
Man.
Jeez.
I still want to play, but I don't think it's the right decision. So,
Damn.
thought about it for a long time, and I think now is an opportunity for me to step away with what's going on here. I think we've got a really good linebacker room. I think Shaq and those guys are going to step and do a tremendous job. I just want to say thank you to the coaches, the players, the support staff, the training staff. Everybody involved with this organization has been the best from top to bottom since the day I got here. The fans have been fantastic. They've supported us. They've traveled. When we've been good, they've been great. When we haven't been great, they've been equally as good and very supportive. And that's the best thing about this city and this town is people love the team and people love the players. And that goes a long way, because when you love the players for who they are, I think it transcends the game, and that's what's important. And most of all, I'd like to thank my family, Mom and my dad, Eileen and Tom Kuechly, my two brothers, John and Henry, and my girlfriend, Shannon. They've been with me since the beginning. They've been very supportive, and I'm happy to share this journey with them. So thank you, Panther fans. Thank you, everybody in the NFL, for your constant support. And now it's time to move in a different direction.
Holy dude. Oh my God.
So we all kind of agreed before the show that we would react to this at the same time. Like, we really didn't listen to that. So for everybody watching and listening, that was our first time hearing that all the way through. And damn. I mean,
you know what? It makes me feel a little worried, like almost kind of something that there's more scary stuff going on.
Something that he's not wanting to say.
Like, I mean, he's telling us what is going on, but at the same time, we don't really know what it means to deal with that kind of life.
And listen, and we've been on the show, people in the comments and the calls, some of you, even myself, we've all kind of echoed this sentiment that these past few seasons, we have not been seeing the same Luke Kuechly on the field that we're used to seeing. That he was missing assignments and, you know, kind of getting blown off the football. All these things that are just the
frustrated too.
Yeah, frustrated. All these things that are just the polar opposite of what we have known Luke Kuechly to be his entire time here. And shout out to Josh from Mass. He just put CTE is no joke. And it absolutely isn't. And, I mean, it's scary. And I mean, we do listen to stories of, like, obviously he was a much worse person, but people like Aaron Hernandez and the amount of punishment when they did the autopsy, his brain was just, it was terrible. One of the worst cases of CTE that they've ever seen. But I don't want to go too down on this, because I think that there is some hope to be gleaned from this, because he still talks about wanting to have a role in other ways and help the football team in other manners. And I know this is hard for him, but I do think it's a very real possibility that he could still be with the Panthers in some other capacity, almost maybe he'll go the Dan Morgan role, which is so eerie how similar those two are. A short career, fantastic linebackers, but just plagued by concussions and injuries, and being smart enough to call it a career before it got too bad.
Yeah, and I'll say this, shout out to Brad Dugan as well. You know, he said Luke for linebackers coach. That statement that he made, saying that he would like to still be involved, and you got the feel, like I said, that he may not be able to play football, but he wants to be involved with it.
If he goes and coaches the linebackers in Washington,
I will be mad as heck if he leaves. We have an opening, right? We don't have anybody to do our linebacker core right now. There's if we're getting ready to bring back Blackburn, I think it makes sense that we bring back Luke. I mean, Luke knows all the ins and outs of how to run a defense, and to be a linebacker, I could see maybe the fact that we're going to be in a 3-4 based on what rules said. Maybe him not having a role yet, but I get the feeling that he wants to be involved in football some way, shape, or form. If it can't be playing, it's what's the next best thing, and that's coaching.
I mean, imagine. Greg, I don't know if you were talking. Did you say something? I don't know if your mic cut in or out.
Nope, we
Yeah.
can't hear
So
you.
yeah,
He's
you
back.
got. It happened to you again, bro. You were talking and
Right when we go live.
Yeah, it always happens right when we go live. Shout out to the Stat Daddy. That's got to be frustrating. Jump out and come back in, and we'll try and we'll get your.
Let me ask you, if you had to retire from your job next week because you developed a speech impediment, like, would you be as emotional? Like, what I'm saying is that
would I feel the way that Luke did? Like in that video,
Luke
when
just
you see him
we just
hurting.
saw him lose something. You know what I'm saying? Like a loved one passed away.
Let's see if we have
Greg.
the bat.
Poor Greg's always in audio purgatory.
Greg, say something. Can you?
No, look at it. He's all skippy. Skippy,
No.
la 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 la. All right.
You gotta try one more time, man.
One more time.
But
all right. So CK, would you have lost your I mean, that we saw something. We saw.
Would I
someone
have a
lose
part of my soul ripped apart of me?
Yeah.
No, not at all. Because I think that once you find something that you love, like Luke, and something that you're that good at, to where somebody can say that you're the best in the world, almost, if not, you're one of the most gifted athletes and one of the most intelligent athletes in the NFL. That's something that is worth fighting for. And I think he did for a while. And I think, as a lot of people have said, I'm not saying he has CTE. I think that's a comparison that might be a little bit exaggerated, but I think that he clearly has lost a step, and he may feel like it's from the concussions, but the last couple of years there hasn't been concussions. What has hurt him, and there's been a few times where he's had those lower leg injuries that he just fights through, and nobody knows that it's like, you see it happen. He gets up gimpy, and you're like, oh gosh, he's done for the season. Our season's over as a defense, but he always continues to play, and so you see that, and then everything else mixed together. I feel like he's starting to feel that come back and hurt his body to where he doesn't want to be somebody who isn't able to handle himself, like as an adult. Like, he wants to be able to still be able to work beyond this. He doesn't want to be stuck not being able to work out and getting overweight like so many of these guys who can't get to working out after retiring because their knees are just destroyed. I think there's just so many different things that kind of come into play, but I do think that we lost a step. We lost the being a step ahead of the competition this past year. He was maintaining a lot of tackles, but that was also, there was a lot of missed things that we wouldn't have seen from Luke 3 years ago. So I get the reasoning for wanting to do it. I hate it because we don't have a leader for this defense right now, with the way things are set up right now. When you look at our players that are actually under contract for 2020, there's not a single one of them that are going to come out on paper as being the leader of that defense like Luke was. The only person that
bye Gerald McCoy.
Yeah, I was about to say that makes this not as attractive of a location as a destination, but I think this all plays into what Rule wants, right? He wants to get the undervalued players. He wants to be able to utilize analytics in a way that allows us to continue to be underdogs and win games that we shouldn't win because we have players that weren't valued where they were drafted. So, I mean, I think that this plays right into what he wants. I mean, he doesn't want an entire team full of just loaded stars like you see in Cleveland. I think he really wants to have people that want to prove that they're the best, that they can be good players in this league. And once again, I think this plays a little bit into what he wants to do. I could be wrong, and maybe we're reading into this a little bit too much, but I gotta hope that there's a future that doesn't involve so much disappointment that we felt the past 2 years.
Can you hear me now?
We have
Hey.
No video.
No video?
I can't see you.
Yes, I can see you. I can see you.
Something's got to work for me. Okay.
Look, he's panic.
I think I figured it out. But
all right.
Okay.
So Luke
going back to
retired.
where I dropped out. Luke Kuechly retired. It's sad, man. Like I said, I might want to shed a tear because this has got to be one of my favorite all-time players. But I look at it as almost bittersweet because it does kind of sound like he might want to have something to do with the Panthers in the future. And he's what, 27 years old or 28 years old? He's young.
He is 28 years old.
28 years old. So he's young. So you get him in there with the Panthers right now as a linebacker coach, something like that. Then you're looking at somebody in the future that you know has the brains for it and the passion for it that can make a great defensive coordinator, future head coach type deal that you've built within your franchise. So, I mean, there's a small silver lining in that. And I get where he's coming from. And Tony, you're right. It did sound like he lost a loved one because honestly, it's probably what it is. This is a guy who's grown up his whole life playing this game that's been really good, top level every year he's ever played. So you don't expect if you're going into this game, like if you're Andrew Luck or Luke Kuechly, and you're at the top of your class, you don't expect your career to end so abruptly after 8 or 9 years. I'm sure you expect you to have a long career that ends up in the Hall of Fame, which it might still, but ends up in the Hall of Fame and records breaking and everything. And to realize that you've gotten to that point based on something you can't control, like a concussion, which sucks, is great that he realizes that kind of stuff. But I'm sure he never expected that kind of thing. So it is kind of like abruptly losing something you've loved your whole life. Hopefully, he can salvage that. So,
sorry. When it comes to positives about this, or outcomes, not outcomes, I will tell you the most comfortable part about this is that every time we had that conversation of Luke he just isn't standing out as much anymore. It's not that he's playing bad, and then Cody, let's recite it real quick. Man, I just don't see Luke Kuechly in the picture as much as I used to. Now you go. What have you said for the last 3 months?
No, you haven't seen anybody in the picture for the last 3 months. Yeah, that has been the byproduct of everybody playing terrible.
So I'm glad we don't have to have that conversation really for like a year or 2 years.
And maybe it did lend some validation to the former argument. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Luke really just was missing plays, and maybe Luke knows that just as much as we do. And he knows that if his play is on the decline, he doesn't want to continue to come back and not only do further damage to his own body, but be a liability to the team that he loves to play for and for a locker room full of guys that he has a ton of respect for. So, I mean,
so then we get this, Cody, is now also add the layer of today's news. We were all excited to come on this show this evening because not only were we coming off the heels last week of the Matt Rule press conference, but then on top of that, the Joe Brady coming from LSU as offensive coordinator was this story that was supposed to lift us up. But sadly, to me now, with Luke's retirement, now there's a lot of looming questions about the roster. The defense is going to be trash at this point. I mean, because there's no way they turn this around just immediately without Luke Kuechly in that roster. I'm starting to wonder this. Does this mean that Cam Newton is less likely to be part of this organization? And are the Panthers plotting something aggressively for the draft if that is the case? I mean, if you don't have the parts right now without Luke Kuechly to be a good team.
Yes, especially when our defense is so bad as it is. I mean, I wrote a little bit of a comment for Draft Tech today. Carolina Panthers ranked 29th in the NFL in total yards per game allowed against. So, I mean, our defense is shout out to Ruben Terry in the chat. Our defense has been trash anyway, and it has been trash. So listen, there's a lot of draft options that open up, especially if we want to entertain the idea that Luke Kuechly might possibly could be a coach for the Carolina Panthers. Again, everyone's going to call me just biased.
What about Joe Burrow? Is it impossible?
We'll get to that one step at a time. But the perfect player that would be sitting right there for us is Isaiah Simmons, who personally is the best linebacker prospect that's come out in the draft and in the past 6 or 7 years. The guy's 6'4", 235 pounds. That can run at 4.3. The dude is expecting to absolutely demolish the combine. And if any of you watched the national championship game last night, Isaiah Simmons was pretty much the only reason that Clemson stayed in that game as long as they did last night. And if you pair that with the fact that you have Shaq Thompson, and how about this? It makes that Shaq Thompson signing look much better in hindsight. Now that we know we're not going to have Luke. Whatever you thought about Shaq Thompson.
Imagine how much Shaq would have gotten paid. Imagine how much we would have had to pay Shaq on the heels of this news.
Dude, I was thinking all of those things when this happened, like going through my mind. We obviously have the shock of him leaving, but then you have to think about the upside of it all, of how things have worked out. If Shaq hadn't signed, we would be lost. Like, we would be lost, right?
I still think we are, honestly.
I think we're a lot better off now than we would have been had the signing of Shaq not taken place. He would have had so much leverage over us.
Oh, God, he would have ruined us.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And that may be why he got signed, to be honest with you. Maybe this was something that the organization knew was going to be coming this offseason, and maybe that's why Shaq was signed as quickly as he was in the middle of in the season, or there towards the end of it, instead of waiting until after the season ended.
My question, though, about the Joe Burrow, and I know it seems like a long shot because people have already said Cincinnati, they're not letting go of that. Yes, now you're thinking, do you have leverage to trade up and get up? But then you're now talking about a team who, in the first pick, has no incentive to trade out, right?
Right.
So, here you go. This is Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers. What we're going to get, Joe Burrow is going to refuse to play for the Cincinnati Bengals and join Joe Brady in a pick, swap, and trade. Boom.
Yeah, let me piss in your Cheerios for a minute and be the voice of reason here. So the difference between number 1 and number 7 in the NFL draft is a lot larger than you know. So, if Cincinnati is not going to trade that pick. Joe Burrow is from Ohio. He had the best season in the history of college football that a quarterback.
Well, he's from Ohio. I didn't know that part.
And then, even if you get them to trade with you, you're going to have to trade a haul. You're going to have to trade probably more than one first-round pick. Probably a second-round pick, too. And, Tony, if you're saying, we're in the middle of another rebuild, then, those are the kinds of picks that you want in your back pocket if you're trying to build up the football team. Now, with that said, maybe the Dolphins are willing to trade down. Tua Tagovailoa is also on the board. But, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this now, dude, the thought of a healthy Cam Newton and Joe Brady and this offense together, what have we been saying for years now? That Cam Newton deserves an offensive mind, a brilliant young mind.
Is he that?
He's that and then some, Tony. The dude is my age, and him and Joe Burrow just completed the most incredible offensive season in the history of football. And that's not hyperbole. Listen, I'm a Clemson fan. My team got their ass whooped the other night. That offense was dynamic.
But Burrow was also playing. He's played so lights out. It's crazy. Like, he was putting shit. He was doing things that I saw. Did you see that one pass Aaron Rodgers had in the game where he was like throwing off his back foot? There's pressure coming, and he throws this lob like 30 yards down the field, and it just dropped right in the bread basket. You know what I mean? Like the most impossible throw. Burrow's was making those all night. So,
yeah, he throws the most easily.
Joe Brady ain't going to make damn Kyle Allen good.
No, he's not. And listen, we have to know what we're going to do at the quarterback position. Ten Tizzy just said, Cody, I need to let go of Cam. We're fixing to let go of him next. And listen, that's another huge question mark that still surrounds the football team right now. we have no idea who the quarterback is going to be. We're hoping and assuming that it's Cam Newton, but there are other options out there. And to be honest, there are two other good quarterbacks. Now, they all have their concerns. I mean, and real concerns, but that happens with every quarterback that comes out. But there are two quarterbacks coming out in this draft that we're going to be in range of, that if you put them under a Joe Brady offense, I think they would be incredible. And that's Tua Tagovailoa and Justin Herbert from Oregon.
CK, tell me why you're so excited about this Joe Brady. You guys need to get me excited. I felt like I was overexcited about the Matt Rule stuff, and you guys are at the level of excitement I was last week about Joe Brady. Why are you guys... Tell me, convince me that
Joe,
this is a godsend.
Did you watch the game last night? Let's start there.
Yes.
He's the wide receivers. Like, he's the basically anything that they did was him.
Passing.
The running game worked. The passing game was Joe Brady. Now, here's the part that I say we come back down to earth a little bit on. He did not call plays. He is not the play caller in that offense. They had an interesting. They actually talked about it on the broadcast, or maybe Cody, you can elaborate a little more on this.
Yeah, can I give the specifics? So,
please.
So Ensminger called first and second down, and Joe Brady called all the third down plays and all the red zone plays, but he also orchestrated their entire passing offense. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to cut you out from the knees, CK, but it's not just a situation where he was only calling the plays sometimes. They specifically brought in Joe Brady to elevate the passing attack of LSU in ways that Ensminger, the original offensive coordinator for LSU, couldn't do. So he worked,
and LSU has never been able to do. I mean, think about it. They've never been able to be. It's almost like I couldn't even believe it all season. It was happening.
My brother is an LSU fan, and I've been telling him forever, y'all have the most incredible defense. Y'all put out so many defensive backs, so many defensive linemen. If only LSU had an offense, they might be unbeatable. And that happened, and they were unbeatable. They went undefeated and posted the best offensive season in the history of college football. So, but that passing game, I mean, you're talking about two 1,000-yard receivers on LSU's offense. You're talking about a 1,400-yard rusher and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and a quarterback that threw for over 5,500 yards.
One of the most prolific offensive performances.
No, it's not
QB.
one of. It is
the with the most touchdowns.
It is the most prolific season that a quarterback has ever had in college football. And you have to give credit to both of them. Joe Burrow, who is an incredible talent that came out of nowhere, had to fight for it. And Joe Brady, who is a protege that studied under Sean Payton. Listen, we have no love for the Saints or Sean Payton, but none of us are going to sit here and say that the offense they've implemented in New Orleans
it's been fantastic.
Hasn't been incredible for years.
The whole time.
Talking about implementing here in Carolina.
Before we move on, I want to give a shout out to Ross Gould, who has supported the podcast through a super chat. He said Joe Burrow is a product of the LSU system. Brady, in parentheses, he was a 5th-round prospect before the season. Let Cincy take him. He's from Ohio, too. And Caleb Hudson coming in with a super chat. Thank you for your support. Trade Cam in the first to the Dolphins for Tua or a second. All right, so back, Mike, to CK. Continue on this Joe Burrow connection to the Saints, because I think Cody brings
Joe Brady.
up some. Yes, thank you. Not Joe Burrow. Joe Brady. Too many Joes.
I know. Yeah, that's an interesting JB.
And Joe Brady has to be the most boring. It's almost like made up.
But I guess you could say he's not your average Joe.
Oh my gosh, that with Rule and now. Oh gosh. Anyway, so what obviously you saw a very efficient offense, an explosive explosive offense, which is something that I think you have to have in the NFL now with the way that the game is played. And I think that should be something you'd be excited about. But the connection you're talking about with the New Orleans Saints, before this season, he was with the Saints as a wide receivers coach, if I'm not mistaken, or a quarterback coach. Do you remember?
Some
Cody?
sort of offensive assistant. I did read that.
Yeah. So, but what he did is he took what he learned at the Saints and he basically created the system for LSU that was now all of a sudden just brought them into this entirely new era of offense that they had never seen before there at LSU. So I think when you look at it that way, to put it in perspective, Bat Daddy has said he has some concerns about the rule and his lack of success, especially early on in his career with the colleges that he's been going to. Joe Brady went to LSU and turned their offense around in one season.
What do you think that Joe Brady acquisition, Cody, tells us about the pull of David Tepper, but also the attraction of Matt Rule?
So I can't yet speak to Matt Rule, but I can tell you what, and I mean, listen, pardon my French, but David Tepper's got that big old swinging hog, and he is spinning it around, boy. And listen, I mean, apparently all the NFL owners are all pissed off at him now because when he hired Matt Rule, I mean, he blew the coaching cap out of the water for a guy that had no NFL experience. So apparently the boys club, as it's known, of these rich NFL elite owners, they're not very happy with David Tepper. But, I mean, if you're a fan of the Carolina Panthers, how can you not be incredibly enthusiastic about the lengths that David Tepper has shown us he is willing to go to fit this football team with premium coaching, which is what the Carolina Panthers have been in such a desperate need of for so long.
And so I've said it before. I have complete confidence in David Tepper and his actions. At this point in time, I have confidence. I want to say this, and forgive me, I'm gonna drop an F-bomb during this statement. So just if those in need, put me on mute for a minute. I don't give a fuck what these other owners think. They're the ones that have been in the league long enough to develop a market that's bigger, that's going to be more attractive to players, to coaches. If we have an owner who is now what I think they consider the richest owner in the NFL, who's willing to push his team to be able to be the best or be considered a top contender every year, that people want, that's an attractive destination. It's been an attractive destination. Charlotte has for a while, but it's not been somewhere people seek. It's somewhere people have to be convinced to come a lot of times. And the fact that we have an owner that is going out there and doing everything in his power to turn what this organization's, I guess public opinion of it is out there with the owners, with the public, with the news, with the media and everything. I don't give a shit what these other owners think. I don't care. Honestly, I think it's amazing because what you see is how salty all these owners are with the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles rejected our request for an interview for one of their guys because of this. I guarantee you it's all because of this, because of our owner willing to go out there and do what he needs to do to succeed. It's making all these other owners have to empty out their wallets. I don't give a crap. Our owner is doing what he needs to do to take this team where he believes it needs to go. That's all that matters, and I hope he does it more, and I hope he pisses these guys off even more and more and more, and we'll just go and just build this team up and all of a sudden take the market share.
Well, Greg.
Can y'all hear me now?
Oh,
yeah.
There you are.
I feel like we're in a Verizon commercial.
It's a much
or
better
Sprint commercial.
Much better angle of that beautiful beard, if I say so.
It's right. I had to change to the phone because for some reason my computer's not working, so I have no microphone, just my phone's microphone. But
no, you're good.
It works.
I wanna follow up on CK's comment about the payment of Matt Rule or whatever. First, shut up, billionaire guys who barely share the NFL revenue with the players in comparison to other leagues. Like, they're already getting a sweet ass deal, the owners, and they make a shit ton. Second of all, it wasn't that big of a damn deal. I mean, it was big. Don't get me wrong. They invested in him, but they just made him basically one of the top paid coaches in the league. So what? You need a coach. What else are you going to do?
They gave him the John Gruden treatment.
Yeah, we don't go shopping at the Dollar General with old damn Dave Gettleman, right? And but I do say this is that after today's news, I actually have been sad. Like, I thought that next year we arguably had an opportunity to really.
Oh no.
Nope.
No. Here's the thing. I knew where you were going. Like, there was this optimism for next season. This is not a move that is meant to be immediate as far as success. Now, it's possible that we have these guys.
I mean, I think he's good enough. I just don't think the roster is now.
Well, that's the thing, is that we're going to end up having to build. We have to build. It's going to be development. This team is going to be dependent on the later rounds of this draft we have this year. That is
We're
really
going to trade back then. That's what we should do. We should trade back.
No.
Yeah,
way.
I'm with Greg on this. If
Not with the number 7 pick. Top 10 pick, you don't trade it.
And specifically, and again, so I kind of know some of these players. Specifically now, when you have a shot at one, Derek Brown, the defensive tackle from Auburn, who is an immediate fix to all of our defensive line run stopping needs. You can put him at a 1 tech and a 4-3 or a pure 0 tech nose and a 3-4. It doesn't matter. That dude is an absolute beast. Look at his film against LSU. LSU won the Joe Moore Award for the offensive line of the year in college football. And Derek Brown just absolutely had his way with them and held a prolific LSU offense to just over 20 points. So, and now that we're talking about missing, I mean, the most incredible linebacker that the Panthers have ever had from a pure talent and IQ perspective, now the ability to add a player like Isaiah Simmons, who might be the best physical linebacker prospect that we've seen, come out in the last 10 years. I mean, if you were just comparing the measurables and the physical details between Luke and Isaiah Simmons is a far better athlete that you can play all over the field. And I just don't know if you pass up on that kind of player in an attempt to move down. I do think what will be interesting is what we decide to do in free agency. And I mean, we saw Hurney last year. He was not afraid to go out and put some players on this football team that made a difference. And
we're going to have some money all of a sudden, though.
Yeah.
Because, Greg Olson's going to retire now.
Yeah, we're not bringing him next year for sure.
Maybe.
We're going to have some money to spend. It's just a question. I feel like now I'm worried we're going to languish in the dumps for a year or two. All right, guys. But look, there's plenty still to talk about. We got a lot to talk about, in fact. But we got to keep our ear to the ground and check out what the fans are saying on the Cat Calls line. The number's 252-228-5098. And before we talk about it all, we want to hear what you got to say. Go ahead and call. Leave us a message about Luke Kuechly's retirement, what he meant to this organization, what he meant to you, this Joe Brady hire, and your excitement about the Matt Rule era or your fears going forward. That's 252-228-5098.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like...
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
What's going on, Panther Nation, C3 fam, everybody in the chat, Josh from Math, and man, have we just been bombarded over the last week. And it seems like a lot of things are just falling into place, and
this is before the Kuechly news.
Right. All of this to kind of
right.
drag out, if you will, into the playoffs. Apparently, Mr. Tepper has other ideas. But I do believe that coming into this season with the season at hand, next season. There's a lot of what ifs. There's a lot of questions, and there's a very big one, and we all know what it is, and I'll get to that in a second. But I think he really wants to put a lot of those questions to bed before this season's even done. I don't mean the league year, I mean the actual season. And it seems to me like he's doing a fine job of that. You look at our new offensive coordinator, our new head coach, our new defensive coordinator, and it doesn't take much to realize that, you know, the rest of the pieces will just kind of fall into place because those guys are all going to have their ideal group of assistants and everything. And as for the elephant in the room, you know, I see a lot of reasons to keep Cam, and I see a lot of reasons they could move on from him. The big reasons I see it is we got mostly a college coaching staff here, if not all college coaching staff, pretty much, except for probably going to be assistants and positional coaches. And that's where Cam did the most damage. I mean, he's been great in the NFL, but he was a monster in college. So I see this as a lot of things here that could benefit him, but at the same time, I could see some of the justification for moving on. I don't care for any of that justification, and I feel that it's outweighed by the positives. You know, let the man have some time under a more modern staff that could probably get more out of him.
All right, thanks, Josh, for your call.
It don't matter who's.
He's got another call, but since this one's so long, I'm gonna play another one.
Josh from Mass signing out. Keep
before I play it.
Show. Love you all. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Josh. Let's move on to the next call, and then we've got. I'm gonna play that video that CK just sent.
What the fuck, dude? That came out of fucking nowhere. Luke is gone.
That's how we felt.
Fuck. I guess I gotta do it one more time.
Luke! All right, let's play this video. I want to see what CK sent. He said, "This."
Can you play it for everybody to be able to see it? Not obviously we can't, but
right. Yes, I can, and
Yeah,
that's what I'm going.
I took a sneak peek. You're in for a treat. If you're watching the YouTube
in the 2012 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Luke Kuechly, linebacker, Boston College.
How you guys doing?
Luke Kuechly is a beast. Tremendous instincts. The legend of Luke Kuechly just keeps growing and growing and growing.
AP Defensive Player of the Year.
Luke Kuechly.
Up in the pocket, throws intercepted. Luke Kuechly at the 48-yard line.
Hey, that's on you guys. That's on you guys. Good job.
Four-man pressure, and Wilson in trouble. Flicks it out of the backfield. Picked off Kuechly. Angling right. 10, 5. Touchdown.
Oh, he's going crazy up there. My man, Luke Kuechly.
Welcome to the most important game in the history of Bank of America Stadium.
It's never the right time to step away, but now is the right time for me. And it's a tough decision. I've thought about it a lot, and I think now is the right chance for me to move on.
Well, thank you, Luke Kuechly, and no thank you to CK for making me watch that after. God.
Almost want to cry, you know?
Yeah, well, all right. So, what were your thoughts during the video? Mine were, I think Luke Kuechly is arguably the best defensive player the Panthers have ever had. The question is he's definitely top 5, right?
Oh, top 3, I think.
But you're talking about Julius Peppers.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Luke Kuechly.
Yeah.
And who else?
Sam Mills.
Better.
Sam Mills gave us a lot more after he retired. He was great while he played, but his legacy is on us during that Super Bowl season. That's where his legacy really comes into play. I think.
Played a lot with New Orleans. Played a lot in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a big shout out to the Den Mama too. Susan Dean's in the house. Thank you for your support with the love bomb super chat $14.99. There's a ton of people watching on YouTube, folks. This might be our biggest show ever. 148 people live. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up button. 68 thumbs up. Let me guilt a few more out of you. We just hit 150. Come on.
We had 168 earlier.
Here's my question about Luke, and I put it in the in the message here in the show chat. But Luke hasn't been the same since he got juked out by that 14-year-old kid, guys. So.
Oh God! Don't say
that. Did he ruin Luke's
disrespect?
By the way, hey, I'm gonna go out here and just say it. I put Luke Kuechly over Julius Peppers. I'm not even sorry about it.
Well, Luke
did. There is not a single defensive player on the Carolina Panthers other than the memory of Sam Mills and obviously the keep pounding thing. But okay, people forget that Julius Peppers opted to leave here, whereas in the most magical seasons that Carolina Panthers have ever had, Luke Kuechly was the beginning, middle, and end of that defense and orchestrated a nightmarish run where quarterbacks all over the NFL had to change their entire game plans just because Luke Kuechly was going to come in, call out what they were doing, and ruin their entire shit. I mean, Julius Peppers was the man. I'm not taking anything away from him, but Luke Kuechly never decided to leave. It's Luke Kuechly number one.
Is there any bias because you saw Luke Kuechly and you didn't see Julius Peppers?
I think there might be a little bit there. Hold on. Well, I think also you mixed in factual information with opinion right there as well, because you have an opinion of Luke Kuechly because you feel better about him because he never left. Whereas you're right about that. So are we talking about heart for Carolina Panthers, best defensive player, or overall best defensive player just as far as how players go? Because if that's the case, then I think Julius Peppers.
They both played 8 years for the Panthers.
Correct.
Okay.
But I will say this.
That's insane.
Luke was more dominant for more years, and he was considered the number one person at his position for the majority of that time.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, dude.
When do you think his downhill spiral started?
Who was considered a better linebacker than Luke Kuechly?
Julius Peppers has
Bobby Wagner.
Listen. Julius Peppers was always considered one of the top 2 or 3 defensive ends in his prime in his first 8 years when he was playing in the NFL. Julius Peppers finished his career as like the number 5 or 6 all-time defensive end.
He was considered maybe top 5 for the first 3 to 4 years, 5 years maybe. After he left and he went to Chicago, and he was not nearly as dominant.
Has Luke been considered the top linebacker for the last 2 or 3 years? Didn't we just argue that point?
I would say last 2 years probably not.
Okay, so that's about 5
I just want to say this is Julius Peppers. Julius Peppers had 70 sacks in 8 years.
Okay.
70. He played 12 games. All right, so he only played 12 games his rookie year, and he had 12 sacks. His last year with the Panthers in 2008, he had 14 and a half sacks. He is, all right, I would argue this. I think that it's probably a coin flip. Like, I think it's probably like this. Is like, hey, well, Peppers.
I agree with
Peppers is sacks.
2 different positions.
Yeah, the positions, one's sacks, one's tackles, right? I do think the Panthers...
One's the leader of the defense. One has a bigger impact on the entire defense than the other. And I promise you, you put Luke Kuechly in there, he has a bigger impact on the game on every play than Julius Peppers does on every play.
That's such a lie.
So I can't agree with that either, man.
Peppers was such a monster.
So hold on.
But here, just think about this, though. Peppers then went on to play for 10 more years. That's the crazy thing. And you got to give Peppers, he has to be the best technically the best defensive player in Panther history if you take in the entirety of his whole career.
How many other linebackers in the NFL have as many tackles as Luke Kuechly has had after
his first 8 years? Nobody.
I can make the same argument with Julius Peppers. How many other Julius Peppers finished like 6 all time in sacks and tackles in the NFL?
Luke
like
was
all
number
time.
1
for the last few years, but he's not number 1 all time.
He is number 1 all time in his first 8 seasons.
All right, can I read this stat to you,
I'm talking about all time in the 100 years of the NFL, not just the first 8 seasons.
Yeah.
I have to read this stat to you. In 2004, Julius Peppers, all right, not only did he have 11 sacks, all right, he had 2 interceptions for 143 yards.
Yeah. Dude, he was a beast. I'm telling you, man. Julius Peppers was a beast.
He had a 97-yard touchdown, 97-yard interception.